How's it going? Happy Monday. Hopefully you guys had a good trading day today. A lot of good stuff on Scan last night. Hopefully you guys were able to utilize some of the ideas and at least put a good trade forward. I was actually on the desk here and I was like, maybe I'll trade a little bit of RETA. I had news that it's ran up from $80 to about 200. And I was like, if it doesn't go up, it's going to probably come back in. So I put on a little bit. I actually got a good entry. It was 235 and 229.99, 230 range. And then I just said, you know what? I'm going to be here at the office until 8 p.m. If this goes to 250 or 270, I'm not going to get this video done. I shouldn't be gambling after hours. So I went ahead and canned it, and I took about $3 to $4 per share. Overall on the average once I had added in some. I don't care. It went down to 210. It could have been 20, 25 bucks a share, but it doesn't matter because there's no edge there. And, just like I tell the room, anytime that I trade after hours, a lot of times I end up doing well, but it's that one trade that always wipes them all out. And it reminds you, you might as well just leave things alone after hours. So, we're going to have a good trade on this, RETA tomorrow, I'm sure. We'll see what happens after hours, where it ends up being. As you guys know, it could bounce around all day. But before we get into this, thank you guys. Some great comments last night. I'm going to go back and read them today. I saw about 50 comments this morning, so and some really good feedback. And the thing about you guys leaving your biggest takeaways is because, just like I said, I don't know what things that I say can relate to you guys the best, right? I don't know what things you guys are going to pull from the video as that biggest takeaway. And the more feedback that I get, the more I can kind of cater towards that when I'm speaking for these videos and things like that. So I always love it. Appreciate the comments. And like I said, we're going to start to do some more fun things during these videos, such as some t-shirts, some Momo Traders books. I think once a month we'll probably do a month to IU, and so basically once every four Sunday scans. But we'll do some other stuff every single Sunday scan. So it's kind of a if you're watching this thing and you're making it through the video and you're paying attention, then you're going to find out who the winner is and things like that. So I will do that on next Sunday scan for this last Sunday, and we'll figure out a way in which we're going to do this and keep it going. So CLVS, the goal last night, we talked about it for a little bit of time, was basically to short into that prior resistance. Now, it does not mean that it's always going to hold. So when you start to scale in, when I start to scale in, I want to make sure that the price action is confirming my thesis. So if I start in there and then it just kind of blows through it, and I add a little bit more and it just like blows through it and it keeps on kind of grinding up, then I need to take notes and maybe take my foot off the pedal a little bit. But in this case, it kind of went right into Friday's resistance, right into the chart resistance that we talked about. We talked a lot about looking left. So it went right into that level. The goal last night was blow through that a little bit, hopefully, and then, come right back in. So we had a great gap up on air and gave a great opportunity, basically scaled in 625 to 635s, and then covered the flush 588, 590 range, and it started to build my core realized gain so that I could then, scale into the winner around a core. Now you can see I started off the gate, covered the flush, and basically was keeping that realized up, watching my core so that I could kind of size into this ramp. A newsletter came right into it. We got a free look at this false breakout. A bunch of chasers come in, and as we talk about all the time, if they're all coming in and it's not breaking down, where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go to the left side, the bid side, and we're going to go down. That's not always the case. CRC was a fantastic trade over the last couple days. But the first couple days when newsletters came in, when the breakouts came in, it didn't necessarily break down right away. So if you weren't doing this covering around the core, like you see right here, then you were going to get bent on the short side because you were being, either stubborn, being too aggressive. And there was a case in which that I was on the first day that I had traded it, where I had scaled in, it flushed out, and I was waiting, kind of anticipating that it was going to break, but instead I didn't cover, and I ended up turning a decent win into a loser just because I wasn't trading around that core. So by doing that, it allows you to kind of scale into that trade still, put that risk up a little bit, anticipating the trade. Had I not covered anything on the pullbacks, then I might have been looking for the cover when it started to ramp up back up towards this level. Instead, I was able to clearly look for the entry, and of course you can see pretty much nailed the majority of that move. So basically we went from 630s down to about 560s. I started back in there, 550s to 570s, and then covered the rest around 540s. So overall, fantastic unwind, no headaches, which is obviously what we always want. So that was the main trade off the open. The other one that I took from Scan was BE, and the goal, once again, very similar, same concept, was looking left. We got a nice move on air, reacted to that. Started to kind of size in a little bit, covered around the core, sized in, covered around the core. And then I did put on a little bit of a dabble again and went ahead and stopped. The reason for that, you can see, it starts to consolidate, do a little bit of a ABCD type setup for that VWAP reclaim. No thanks. So I moved on, and hopefully this continues to go. Hopefully it continues to hold up, and we have another, $6, $7 mover here, and we might end up having a decent opportunity in the coming days. So let's go through a little bit of Scan last night. We had Tiva, same thing. No play for me, but the goal last night was week open versus 920s. The low of the day was 921. So the goal here is to just kind of watch this thing, and the more that it starts to hold trend, the more opportunity that it kind of starts to set up. We're going to need to watch 920s versus 950s, sort of that consolidation in that level. It's range bound at the moment. So the more that it consolidates and starts to hold, if it starts to anticipate that 950 breakout, we should have a nice move. A lot of people are short biased on this thing, but trend is holding, so we'll see what happens. ACB and CGC was, nothing burgers out of the open, the week open. So right away they were off radars. And I talked about that last night where, I've got a lot of stuff on radar, but it's about fine tuning that watch list down to 2 or 3 main names. And that's exactly what I did this morning. And I only was watching 2 or 3 names out of the open. So BE we went over. FGEN. This one I fumbled. it. It flushed out of the gate really early. And so I got a partial fill, 40-60s, and I ended up covering for about $1 per share. I thought that was pretty good. My goal was that it was going to rally, and then I'd be able to scale in versus the VWAP level. So unfortunately, I minimized what this could have been. On Friday, I had mentioned that it kind of seemed like it was priced in. Usually you can kind of get a feel for that based on how it opens after it has whatever data or news or whatever was kind of expected. And, it wasn't continuing to hold trend. There wasn't new buyers coming in. It almost seemed like a sell the news event. And that's why I had mentioned what I did on Twitter on Friday, that it kind of seemed like it was priced in. And clearly today it's proving that was the case. So again, you're not going to nail them all the time. $1 per share on a normal day is pretty good. In this market though, especially when you look at it and, coulda, woulda, shoulda been, $5-6 a share. It is what it is. And you have to be able to move on and wait for the next one. So on that note, ASMB is a very similar situation. So we had data this morning, and you can see this had a pretty, large daily chart moving in. We also went right into this prior resistance and this top right here. We talked about this pre-market on the broadcast. For those of you guys that don't know, I do the same thing without the video. In the morning, I just put on this headpiece right here, and I start talking to the room at 9 a.m. every single morning and go over exactly this. And I mentioned, this resistance here and this prior high, and basically I would be looking to short pops versus 18. And so anyway, I got in there. My entry there was 1802. And basically 1809 to 1802, and flushed out. And, rather than just cover right away, just because I wasn't really sized up yet, there wasn't really a reason to be sized up. I went ahead and scaled in and started to trade around the core, scaled in, trade around the core, and made it most of the day, but only to about 1550s. And I say only because it dropped another $1.50. But very clean unwind. I like these styles. This was the exact goal that I had with, FGEN, but unfortunately, unwound a little bit more without me. And they had earnings tonight, so it flushed down and then came right back up. RDFN, same thing. No trade for me, but the goal was a week open, and ideally we get towards 1980s. Basically came down to 1980s, 1960s, and then a ramp red to green. We talk about the VWAP holding. So, dips versus VWAP. Very clean trade. Would have kept you in the trade, for the most part all day. There was a little bit of a ramp, pullback, ramp, and fail. So, typically that's somewhere where I would either short or, take some of my long off. But for the most part, as long as you traded this morning, it was a overall pretty good trade. PBYI from Scan, nothing really to go over. It held the levels that we were looking for. MAXR, not much. SPPI, goal was 850s. We came into basically 845, 850, and then ran up. VKTX, another consolidation day. DTIL was on Scan last night for a short, and a nice fade. So I don't want to miss this one. Tomorrow, again, I still feel like this one can unwind a little bit more. NXTC had news over the weekend. Not a lot of people, I don't think, knew, but I also think that it kind of squeezed into the weekend just because people were unsure. You don't want to end up down another $50 or something. So I don't think there was a huge short position going into the weekend, and therefore nobody really to cover today. Just a lot of shorts. A lot of longs got stuck. I just traded around a core. Didn't really amount to too much. It was a difficult trade just because of the liquidity. If I wasn't where I was on the bid each time, I'm not sure that I would have made money on it. Most of the day it was pretty sideways, but I literally had to have my bid out there in order to get a piece of that flush. Otherwise, I probably would have been kind of fighting the trend a little bit. So with that said, and how I use the information that it gives, CNST was gapping down because of NXTC, right? Because it was pretty much a sympathy trade the last couple days. Yes, it had its own news, but that doesn't matter. Like we talked about last night, Wrapped and CNST, all of those were basically derivatives of the NXTC move. They were moving based off of that, and they wouldn't have otherwise. And so anyway, with that said, a lot of people were kind of sympathy shorting or thinking that it was a good idea to, or assuming that this was going to gap down, ends up ripping back and squeezing everybody out. So hopefully we got a good trade here. The volume's fading off. We could technically get another nice breakout, week open, 35.40. But they definitely trapped shorts off the open this morning. And other than that, let's see, TDC. This one, the idea worked, but was it tradable? If you were prepared and bought off the week open, probably not. So I still like the week open's potential for a breakout. Med, another big day today, so kind of watching this one tomorrow. Huge move off the open. very tradable. And then for the most part held VWAP. And so now, what I do tonight is I look at this line here and I realize that basically 81 is going to be a big level. 80/70s to 81 is going to be a very big level tomorrow. So if we gap over that, I'm going to look to fade it under that level. If we open under it, I'm going to look for it to kind of consolidate and then rip through. Shaq did the reversal we were looking for. I did not trade that one. EXPE did the unwind that we were hoping for. Again, a little bit hard off the open. And then other than that, PTON, exactly what we wanted. We wanted week open, 23s as your guide. So not only did you get 23, but you got a nice VWAP. This should look very familiar. Anybody that watched the video last night, this setup right here should look very familiar. Not talking about, guessing the bottom. I'm talking about ramp up, pull back, hold this VWAP level, ramp up, hold it again, higher low, higher low, higher low, ABCD setup, and then ramp red to green. Perfect setup. So again, I still, like I said, I have a position in that one. I've had it for a little bit now. And so that is that. Let's see if there's anything else to talk about today. Oh, TRNX. So TRNX was a really nice one today. This was, it kind of was stronger than expected, and therefore I start to go in my mind and think squeeze mode, as long as it's, proving. And so the goal here was basically as long as 210s start to confirm. So I wanted it to go back and retest basically, 208s, 210s, then rehold at 210, and then start to ramp up. And that's exactly what happened. So went ahead, added to the winner, and then I have a rule. If a newsletter comes into a name, I'm out. I'm out. 9 out of 10 times I'm happy. There are those times where I'm like, I was all sized up, it was ready to go. It would have worked, it did work, but the other 9 times, I am so happy that I sold. And so that's exactly what I did. No questions asked. I'm out. Eject button. See you later. Other than that, I just started to dabble short, covered. Started sizing short and covered. You can kind of see this line here was acting as support. This prior cover here. And same thing across the way. And then, as I noted in the room, we had a big stuff move. Perfect stuff move. So, to me, that's, some people say you can't see anything in tape. I beg to differ. I said it right there in the room, as you guys saw. If you guys follow on Twitter or Instagram, you could see the real-time call of the stuff. And, it should have broken out. It was met with a lot of inventory that was also hidden. And from that point forward, it stayed heavy. So then the line in the sand becomes that 250 level if you just draw a line across the prior level. And then at that point, we just pretty much melted. Now, yeah, it would have been nice to hold it to 210s or whatnot. But, the fact that I behaved this way throughout the day was good because it allowed me to size into this move. Had I not taken off, stock on the dips throughout the day, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Try to keep at least a half size for the good portion of the move. So that's exactly what I did there. And that was about it. I had a couple Qualcomm type trades. I covered too much of it, basically, before the huge unwind, but overall it was okay. It wasn't my favorite type of work here. I started short and covered. I covered some more. Started short, throughout this level. Basically, my risk was this level over and under. So this was the 92.30 level was the area in which I was kind of using as my guide. So, as you guys know, I don't use a hard stop. So it depends on how much size I have. It depends on what it's doing. Depends on what the market's doing, what I expect. And in a situation like this, had I used that 30 stop, then I would have covered at the top. But I did cover over here, the majority of it, actually about 2/3. And that's when I tweeted, how I know it's going to go lower? because I just unsized, or downsized rather. But at any rate, covered the rest right here. And this type of trade takes too much attention. Where a CLVS and a BE and a TRNX, I can be a lot more confident that I'm on the right side of the trade. So anyway, again, thank you guys for all the comments from last night. If you have any questions, use the comment section below. Once again, I'll see you guys in the chat room tomorrow.